I only knew pre-foreclosures. Like that was the only thing I knew. I was a
Yeah.
one-trick pony as far as real estate investing. I only knew pre-foreclosures. That's what I did. Now this is 2011, 2012, where there's not a lot of foreclosures going on then because they already all happened. That's all I know. And so she's the getaway driver because she ain't knocking on doors. She's not getting cussed out. So it was just like if someone would cuss me out, like, or, yell at me or run out their door and chase me off their lawn, like she was the one driving my truck and we get on our way. But we did that for a whole year and we got our first deal. And that deal was the one deal that helped me quit my job.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Kingdom REI podcast show. I'm your host, Ellis Hammond, and as always, bringing on great guests for you to really help kingdom-minded leaders learn how to, invest in real estate, create margin and freedom in their life. And excited about the guests we have on today, really primarily serving real estate agents. I think that's a really interesting niche because a lot of agents out there, it's transaction-based, where they're in the world of real estate, but not really building, creating equity, not really building, creating passive income. So I'm excited for this guest. We haven't really talked much about that. It's not something we talk a lot about, our agents or the realtors, kind of that world. So without further ado, excited to introduce everybody. Chris Bounds, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me on, Ellis.
I'm excited to just hear a lot of, what you got going on. I know you got a big conference coming up that's serving, you got some big speakers, man, like some big names here. So I'm excited to talk about how you're putting together summits. But man, I want to pray for us if that's okay before we jump in today.
Let's go for it.
Father in heaven, thank you for Chris. Thank you for just this platform to be able to share amazing, inspiring stories like Chris's, and just wherever people are listening, on the treadmill today, in their office, taking care of their kids, whatever it may be, God, would it be uplifting? Would it be encouraging? Would it lift their eyes upward to know that there's a God in heaven who loves them, who cares for them, who wants to empower them to do more so that his name may be made great. So God, we lift that up to you today. We pray for those who are listening, and we pray for us in this conversation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So first of all, let's start there, man, because that's how I met you. So I met you through this conference you got coming up. So for those who are listening, tell us a little more about this Real Estate Wealth Con that you're putting on.
Yeah, certainly. And that may be the first time I've prayed on a podcast. I think I have on Zooms before. Our kids go to a Christian school. So whenever the pandemic happened and everything went on Zoom and all that, we probably did then, but that's pretty cool.
I'm not, you'd be surprised. I've actually heard that before, but we do it every single show and, just it is what it is, right? We talked about
Yeah. Love it. Real Estate Wealth Con. So it's a virtual real estate super conference. Happens September 6th through 8th, so 3 days. And we're going to have two stages where over 60 speakers, like industry leaders and a whole different or a whole variety of topics are going to be coming on talking about things like investment strategies, business operations, sales and marketing, technology, and AI, and market observation. That's where I was trying to go. And ultimately just pouring value to folks that are interested in real estate investing, whether actively or passively, because there's folks that are going to be talking about multifamily as a passive investor, what you should look for.
Yeah, you got my buddy Zach on there, right? Zach Happenstall. So I saw he's one of the speakers, yep. Rise 48. Those guys have had a tear, man. They bought, over $1 billion of real estate in the last 3 years. So that's an incredible guest you have coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got, like you said, Zach, we got Brian Burke, the author of the Hands-Off Investor. We've got a whole bunch of really good speakers. Some you may have never heard of, but I guarantee you, regardless whether you heard their names or not, they're going to be bringing the value, and it's all for the price of free.
Wow.
Most of the stuff I just do absolutely for free. And this particular event, I was kind of thinking because I've done summits before. They're like one day, and we did them during the pandemic. They were great. They were just one day, but I found that one day was a little constricted because I could only go so far as wide or deep. So I was like, we didn't do one this year. We did them in January in 2021 and 2022. We didn't do one this year. I was busy launching a new fund and I didn't want to do the same thing. I was like, so if we're going to do it, I want to do it differently and better. So ultimately I was like, well, if I'm going to do it better, I need to do more than one day. And if we're going to do like a local event, there's a ton of logistics involved, extra costs. Then now we're going to have to start charging like $500 plus per person. So we ultimately decided to do virtual. I know virtual is not like some people are zoomed out, like the pandemic totally zoomed some people out, and I get it. And we're not doing this on Zoom. It is live streamed, but we're using an interactive virtual app to where you can actually come together as a community, chat, network with other folks while also watching a live stream, and hopefully meet some folks, learn some things. It's going to be epic.
Bro, I mean, this is an amazing list of speakers. Like, I mean, a lot of guys that I've learned from. This is unbelievable. So real
and they're all
estate-
there voluntarily. Didn't pay for a single. I didn't pay for any speakers. They're all there voluntarily.
So realestatewealthcon.com, guys, go check this out. This is happening on September 6th through the 8th. So this podcast will come out soon. So plenty of time to go to realestatewealthcon.com and grab your ticket, free ticket, by the way, for this. So can we just talk entrepreneur to entrepreneur for a few minutes then? I know this is a real estate investing podcast, but I want to talk entrepreneur to entrepreneur for a minute because there are other people who are building brands, communities, etc. Walk me through what InvestedX is and how this helps you serve your audience and solve the, like, what problem are you trying to solve with InvestedX that this conference kind of does?
Yeah, so InvestedX is more the overarching brand. That particular conference falls under the Invested Agent. So I got InvestedX, which covers invested agents. That's more education for folks looking to learn about real estate investing.
Got it.
It's also a realtor team. And then we have Invested Equity. That's the passive side where we have a fund that targets workforce housing, primarily multifamily properties. But going back to invested agents and doing events. So putting on my entrepreneur hat on, how can I expand my audience? So this is branding outreach and do it in a way that's value add. And right, I mean, the easiest way is to put together a knowledge base, great speakers, industry leaders, put them together in a room. In this case, it's a virtual room, and give value to the audience. This is a virtual audience. And in this case, it's free. It's absolutely free. So that was the goal. Can we do that? Now, in return, what am I going to get? I'm going to get a lot of attention, which I want. I'm a business owner. I want attention.
Yeah.
Check.
I found you. Check. All right.
Yeah, there you go. So
there you go.
So we know each other now,
Yep.
and I'm sure we'll bump into each other at a live event at some point. And whether we do or not, we now have a connection. And then we were talking offline about other people that we know, that we have mutual friends. So we'll be able to make these connections. But I was also, it gives you, when you host events, when you host the party, it gives you the ability to connect with not just your audience, your target audience, but also the other people that you're bringing together that are going to help put on the event, like the speakers. So it was a good excuse for me to reach out to other people that I'm not necessarily doing business with, but hey, I can get to know them a little bit and at least open the door to maybe future business opportunities later on down the line. Like Brian Burke. I mean, he's the author of a book that I consider one of the Bibles of investing in real estate syndications. I really didn't have a direct reason to reach out to him, even though we kind of do somewhat of the same things. But now, at least I've got his phone number. We've talked on the phone. We've had some conversations, and who knows? Maybe sometime down the line, we'll work on a deal together. Tom Wheelwright. I mean, Tom Wheelwright's a guy that I was reading in college.
Yeah.
I was reading about this guy that was with Robert Kiyosaki and Ken McElroy, and they were like the OGs of real estate. And he's one of the, I guess, legends in the as far as tax strategies for real estate investors. Got him to come on board. I mean, what reason do I have?
And the way that you got these guys for free for folks who are thinking about it is you're building the audience. Like you build a stage that's attractive. It's the way I got you on the show, right? Hey, I have a stage that you can come share on in order to promote your.
It's branding. It's branding for everyone.
So that's how you're getting these amazing guys that come in, because you're saying, hey, I'm going to go build the stage. I'm going to go build this, folks, of people who would potentially buy your products down the road or like what you do, come follow you. That's how you're getting all these guys to come speak for free.
Correct. I mean, a lot of these folks, they're very busy, but when they realize like, hey, look, there's this guy, I don't know him. I'm sure they did a quick little Google search on me and realized, hey, at least I'm clean cut and have a decent brand out there. So, they realize he's building an audience and he's asking me to come give value in front of a large audience that now I can expand my brand to their audience. Some of them may reach out to me for my business interest and want to do business with me in some way. So that's what's in it for them. So ultimately, when you host the party, you just become the center of gravity. And you get the ability to connect more with your target audience and then also others that are helping co-host it with you.
So let me dive a little deeper into your offer though, okay? Just because I want to learn too from you. So I sign up. It's free. By the way, guys, I'm on this website. I just registered. I got my ticket, realestatewealthcon.com, for absolutely free for the entire 3 days. But then I can also join if I want to get the upgrade to something called your Invested Agents Pro. And so is that like a continuity program that you have? Explain to me kind of what that is on the back end there.
Yeah, so Invested Agents started out, we've got a real estate team. It's a collaborative real estate team with eXp Realty. And we're probably one of the strongest real estate investor teams in eXp Realty. We've got over 200 agents on the team and 10, 20 joining every single month. But we've always had other folks come to us, whether they were already with eXp Realty or they're just not licensed. And we're like, hey, I'd like to work with you. And I'm like, well, I didn't have a way of really helping them outside of just a brief conversation. So we created an Invested Agents as a community to where we could help everyone. Now, anyone on a real estate team, we give everything away for free, like all of our courses, mastermind calls that we do. And we had one this morning, coaching calls and all this stuff. So we give it all away for free, but we had to create a community to where if someone wanted a little bit more, they had the ability to connect with us. So back to the event. So the event is absolutely free. Of course, if you want to get individual copies of the recordings, what we're going to do, and this is how this usually plays out in a normal virtual event. You have an 8, 12, or in this case, 3-day virtual event. And you get a copy of the recording, but really it's just one big file. It's one big video that you're going to have to go scroll through and find, who you want to, watch or rewatch. We're not doing that. What we're going to do is you'll have access to that, yes, but you would also have on-demand access to individual speakers. So if you wanted to go see Brian Burke, Zach, if you wanted to see Ethan Gow or Connor Steinbrook or Coach Michael Burt, if you want to see their individual speakers, you'll have their individual filed where you can actually go and look at it. In a lot of cases, you'll even have access to their actual slide presentations where you can go back and actually reconsume their content, their presentation, to maybe catch up on things that you missed. Either you just didn't get a chance to see it, or you want to go back over it because it was so deep. So you'll get all that, but in addition to that, you'll get everything else that we have in our community. But the number one thing, at least the highest value, at least in my opinion, is the monthly group coaching call that we have with our investors and agents, and we do that on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock.
So I can be part of your program for $127 for the whole year.
Yep.
How do you, I guess I'm trying to figure from an entrepreneur standpoint, how are you actually making, how do you build a business off of this? What is the continuity here? I mean, because that's a continuity program, but dude, that's $127 for the year. I don't know how you fulfill on that.
Yeah, it's nothing. Well, one, I don't need that to pay my bills. So that's one thing. And then I keep going around in my head, is there a way I could even make it even lower? Is there a way I could even make it free at some point? I don't know. I may do that. It's mainly an outreach program. I have what I'm doing anyway. So how can I make it as ridiculously low cost where, as Russell Brunson would say, it's an irresistible offer? It's almost, Glenn Sanford, the CEO of eXp, said this about his offering, which is eXp Realty. It's where it's so great that it's actually irresponsible not to choose it.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's basically how I got there.
People, if they were to come and be a part of Invested Agents Pro, what would be the hope that they eventually do? Would it become part of your team? Would it be invest in deals? Where is the, you're creating amazing trust collateral here with the stuff you're putting on, giving ridiculous offer like this for $127 to what end? Chris? I mean, not that it has to be an end, but my point is you do have a business behind this as well.
Yep.
So what is the actual business?
Yeah. So what I really want to grow my business is I would like collaborative folks that we can work with on it. Whether you're going to join our team with eXp Realty, great. If not, that's cool too. Whether you're licensed or whether you're with Keller Williams or any of the other brands, like that's cool. Maybe we can work together on deals. Ultimately, that's the big win. If I can help you learn how to find deals and help you actually get that deal closed, maybe we can JV on it. Maybe whether we have funding sources or use some of our collaborative funding sources to get that deal done, great. But just to see you win is even better. Or if you want to go because you're a rock star agent, you're out there busy, you'd rather just passively invest. And this is the big thing with a lot of agents. They think they have to go out and buy single family rentals or wholesale properties or flip, which is very time consuming and would take away from their busy production business. They don't realize that, hey, they qualify as a real estate professional, which gives them tremendous tax benefits. Most of them don't even know about this.
Yeah.
So crazy. I can show them, hey, look, there's actually ways that you can passively invest in real estate and take advantage of all these tax advantages that the IRS has given you that you don't even know about. And guarantee you, so Tom Wheelwright and probably a couple other of the CPA speakers during the event will be talking about that.
I mean, clearly, if you're serving a room full of real estate agents, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing that they don't know that they're not putting every single dollar they can into these type of deals, because not only are they going to start getting equity and building passive income, but they likely can knock out their entire tax bill just from investing in real estate deals. So I think that's amazing. Well, I think this is cool, man. I'm over here kind of geeking out on, as someone else who is building a community and what you're doing here. Tell us a little bit kind of on the inside, like what people can expect on those monthly calls you guys do.
Most of the calls go with wins and losses. So where we get a chance to talk about our wins for the past week. Now, wins typically are good things that have happened in your business, maybe something you learned, something you experienced that's been positive, a deal that closed, something along those lines. Losses can be challenges that you're running into, problems, headaches, things you're just not sure about. Maybe it's a deal like, hey, look, I got this lead, but I don't know, it kind of doesn't make sense, or I don't know how I can actually make this work as a rental. Those kind of things. It also can be, and I have these in my when I'm sharing wins and losses. Man, I got this tenant, and unfortunately, like the sewer line broke into their house, and they're having to move into a hotel while we fix this thing. Like that's a challenge. So we talk about those things, and it's not designed as me preaching, but instead, hey, look, let's get the conversation started. But the community is probably going to have a better answer than I will. I'm happy to share my insight, but you'll also get insight from other investor agents or folks in the community that they've had similar issues or they've had similar situations come up, and they can share their advice, their experience. And we've had a lot of that on lead generation lately, like over the past several weeks, and actually several months. A lot of focus has been on lead generation, diversifying leads, because activity is low right now, especially on the realtor side. Like I think the investor side, it may have picked up a little bit, but on the realtor side, it's slowed down. And we've got some agents that are just crushing it using the investor agent method, which is, I call it like a buy it or list it method, where they can go in and just serve to help the homeowners, whether they're buying the property as an investor or they're listing it, but go in with a value add approach, not just a one-stop shop, like I'm going to list your house or I'm going to buy it for cash.
Chris, I want to know your journey into the investment side. I mean, did you start as a realtor, working for the commission, and then find yourself into the investment side? Tell me a little bit your journey of kind of towards financial freedom.
I mean,
because it's cool about you kind of got all aspects of this. You got the agency, the investment. I mean, more so your story, and then also like helping us create a roadmap for someone listening who can maybe follow as well. So
long story, grew up and watched my grandfather, who built a company, had over like 300 employees. He was basically following the rich dad formula. Now he's old school. He's since passed away, but super old school, where he worked his butt off, and in college got a good degree, got a job, started his own business with some buddies, built that out, used the money from the business and invested in real estate all over Texas. Farmland, commercial properties, duplexes, single family properties, huge tracts of land, development. He built a business, funneled the money from the business into real estate, and then also stocks. He was big into stocks. So he had all three. He had business, he had real estate assets, and he had stocks. And he also did loans. So he had a lot of paper assets. So I watched that as a kid, and we'd have conversations. And then I remember my parents had a single family property. So they had one rental. And I remember going in between tenants, and like I was the kid that, raking leaves and cleaning out trash and stuff. So I saw that and experienced a little bit. And then it was when I was in college and read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like clicked. Like, oh, I get it now. And that's when everything really kind of fast tracked. So ended up doing 4 deals my first year in college,
Wow.
2 of which were rentals. So I left college with 2 rentals. I had no job. I guess I had credit because I had enough for a credit card, or at least they'd send those to you in the mail. I don't recommend that, but that's
Is that how you got your first? Like, how do you buy 4 deals in college as a freshman?
No, so I used the credit card to pay the guru who taught me how to buy pre-foreclosures.
Okay.
So this is back in 05, 04, 05, when that was kind of like it was a hot, lead source. Ended up knocking on doors and got my first deal as a pre-foreclosure. JV'd on that deal with the guru that taught me what the only thing I knew. And then I did the other 3 on my own. One was a lease option, one was a straight up purchase, and then it was a rental. And then another one was a double close wholesale. So I was pretty diversified. I did a wholesale deal, lease option, rental, and then double close wholesale. That was my first 4 deals, and I was still in college.
Yeah,
it's kind of insane.
You learn more about finance in that year, man, than most people do in a finance major, likely.
Yeah, and one of the rental, that was a private lender. Private lender funded them, and I was 21. There's really no excuses to get deals done. So this is something I told my sales team. My business partner, they graduated and went to a different state, so that company, we didn't grow anymore. And I moved to Houston, got a sales job, high paying sales job. So I had very low debt, like basically just a little bit of student loans and high income. And I had roommates. So my cost of living was ridiculously low. And I still had 2 rentals. And I didn't really do anything for a while until I got married. And that's when everything kicked back. When I got married, that's when I realized, like, hey, thinking about the future and legacy and kids and wanting to do private school, not public school. And like, these were our goals together. And then I dropped this bomb on my wife's lap. I'm like, hey, this is like week 2 or 3 after we get married. And I'm like, hey, I want to flip houses again. And she comes from a very conservative background. Like, you just work hard and you retire. Like, that was her life. That's kind of what she envisioned, not a roller coaster entrepreneurial life, which I'm very comfortable with, probably too comfortable with. So she was really nervous and supportive though. And drove with me, and we were doing door knocking within a couple of weeks.
You were taking your wife door knocking.
Yeah, she called herself the getaway driver because it was I only knew pre-foreclosures. Like, that was the only thing I knew. I was a one-trick pony as far as real estate investing. So I only knew pre-foreclosures. That's what I did. Now this is 2011, 2012, where there's not a lot of foreclosures going on then because they already all happened.
Yeah, all the foreclosures are past. Yeah, they're post.
Yeah, but that's all I know. And so she's the getaway driver because she ain't knocking on doors, and she's not getting cussed out. So it was just like, if someone would cuss me out, like, or yell at me or run out their door and chase me off their lawn, like, she was the one driving my truck, and we get on our way. But we did that for a whole year, and we got our first deal. And that deal was the one deal that helped me quit my job.
Wow.
If we bought it.
You've been full-time entrepreneurship since then?
No, so I was still part-time. I had a really good gig. It was an online sales position, and I get to work from home. At a certain point, I got to work from home. So I was making 80-ish thousand a year. She was a teacher, so don't really remember what she was making, probably 50-ish. And so we had really good income, very low expenses. I had a house, and we were doing this real estate thing on the side, accumulating some rentals, did a couple flips. And then when we sold that first deal, which turned into a rental, and here's a really good point. We were going to flip it. If we flipped it, we would have made about 30 grand. We held it, sold it 3 years later, and grossed over 100,000. That's when I quit my job because my employer had cut my pay by 50%. At the same time, we sold that rental, and we sold one other rental that we grossed over 120,000. So we sold 2 rentals, grossing over 220,000. At the same time, my employer cut my pay by 50%. And I'm like making 80 grand over here, but now I'm making 40. Like, yeah, I'm looking at
The
this real
numbers
estate
don't
thing.
add up. Right. So then fast forward a little bit more closer to today. I mean, I think I read you're a couple hundred units now that you own. Are those apartment buildings? Tell me how you're kind of balancing this idea of like, hey, I'm this transaction type business in the real estate agency, but then
Yeah.
also investing capital, because I feel like that's it's probably why a lot of folks in the agency world maybe don't get into investing, because the transaction thing is nice. Like, it's nice just to make fees, right? But
Yeah,
then to put
that's
that into
actually
long-term
the
holds.
lesson in my life. Like, man, if I could do a do-over, I'd be massively wealthy now. Just what I know. So when I quit my job, like rental properties, and if you have rentals, like, that doesn't put food on the table. Single family homes are not, they should produce cash flow, but it is not reliable cash flow that's going to do anything for you unless you have like 50 to 100 of them. Ultimately, they're a wealth generating cash cow over time. And I experienced that. That's why the first 2 that, over $220,000 in gross income, because we held them. We let appreciation do its thing. We got tax benefits along the way, and we got a little bit of cash flow. And so that was great. But quit my job, like, I need money. So we'd already flipped a couple houses, but now I needed to flip for income. So now my real estate side gig that was more passive in nature became an active job. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm out there, we're flipping houses. And this is great. They're like, hey, we're making 30 grand here, 50 grand here, 60 grand here, doing 2 a month, 3 a month, 4 a month. And eventually we're doing like 5 or 6 a month. Years go by and we realize, like, we built ourselves a really high paying, but also high stress job. And it's not helping build wealth because we're selling everything. In the end, at the end of the day, it's just like being an agent. It's commission. Except for, we call it net profit at the end. I mean, that's what flipping is. That's what wholesaling is. Once I sold the house, I would never see another dime from that property again. But the ones that we held were always the best ones for us. They were less stress, outside of a couple little tenant headaches here and there. But if you do them right, that was usually mitigated up front by doing a good job in the rehab. And of course, screening the tenant. Those are our best deals. So we had to figure out a way how we can slow the flipping down, get more into buy and holds. That was in 2018. We started making that transition. And then COVID was an excellent opportunity to just cut the cord. Like, this is going to be painful because we had business operations and we had a lot of costs into that infrastructure. And it was painful to cut that cord. It was painful in the slow bleed between 2018 and 2020. But when we cut the cord, it was very painful. But we knew that, hey, look, if we can just ride it out, like, if we can figure out a way to ride it out, cover the costs, then over the long term, we'll be much better off. And that's ultimately what we did. Wasn't fun, still not fun. Like, we still have rentals that were designed to be flips. And we still have a lot of costs. I'm selling a couple of them now. But having done that, like, we were able to free up a lot of time and also lower our overhead to do other things. So we've launched a fund, we've gotten into multifamily, we're doing some lending, gap funding, and stuff like that.
So when you say cut the cord, like, you guys just really reduce the amount of kind of flipping transactions you're doing, so you could focus more on, hey, let's actually start putting capital into assets with a kind of a long-term growth strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, going back, if I could do it again, there's nothing wrong with flipping. Like, it taught me a lot, especially about project management and sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can go back and do it again, I would not scale a flipping business. So I'm thinking, like, I'm this $1 billion entrepreneur. I'm going to go scale. I'm going to do like 50 houses a month or something. Why can't you do that? In observation, joining masterminds and with some of the best flippers across the nation, very, 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 very few people actually make it past the abyss of scaling from small to a massive flipping business. Very few. Most that attempt it go out of business or scale back down to something that's more manageable. That's what I scale back down. Everyone I know personally that's tried that, and that personally, like, here locally, same thing. Just very few are going to go and do the 10, 20. And now wholesaling is a little bit easier, I think. It was never really my game, but you're not dealing with ongoing sunk project costs and overhead and all this stuff. It's mainly a sales and marketing play. If I can go back and do it again, I would keep flipping 2 or 3 a month and hold one. 2 or 3 month hold one. Just continually building that up over time. That would have been a smarter play. It would have been
You think
definitely
someone
a
can
better
do
well
that
play.
with a 9 to 5? You think someone could do that, what you just said, with a 9 to 5?
Flipping more than 1 or 2, yes, because I was doing that. More than that would be really challenging. And now this depends on your 9 to 5. If your 9 to 5 is you're a registered nurse where you really can't be on your phone, probably not. Like that's going to be hard. If you have a sales job where I pretty much made my own schedule, and as long as I hit my numbers, and I had a lot of leeway in what I did, yeah, it'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, because you kind of have to answer the phone for contractors, making decisions on the flip, stuff like that.
Yeah, but more importantly, when the lead comes in, because like if you're calling a service provider and they don't answer the phone, like what do? You just call the next one, then you call the next one, then you call the next one. So when that motivated seller is in their head, they're in the decision point that, hey, I'm taking action on this marketing piece, or I'm going to actively search for it on Google, and I'm going to go, hey, who can help me with this problem? And you don't answer that phone. Maybe they may leave a message, maybe they don't. Either way, they're calling the next person.
Yeah.
And it comes down to one of the first people that can actually solve their problem, that they trust and they know will solve the problem.
Did you get most of your leads through direct mail?
At that time, yeah, we were spending about 30 grand a month.
What do you see working right now?
Right now, surprisingly, 100% organic. I'm not actively looking for single family properties, but I am still getting leads from our website. So we built a pretty decent website. We had blogs and we had our anchor articles on foreclosures and probate and evictions and all that stuff. So I'm still getting leads from those, even though I wasn't looking at it. I went back and looked at the data. I'm like, holy cow, I'm actually still ranked on the first page for evictions in Fort Bend County. So we've got agents on our team that are trained in the buy it or list it. I'm like, hey, look, like I'm going to give you these leads, and like I'll just take a commission referral fee if you list it, and if we end up getting a contract to buy it, I get first dibs. So
tell me about the strategy so that you're teaching agents. I'd love for you to kind of give some of the secret sauce for it to help. So you're teaching them kind of this both buy or list type strategy to get the contract, essentially, because you're giving more options to the seller.
Yep. In 2018, I had my lead manager. I said, hey, every deal that we actually made an offer on, like a lead called in, we went out, we actually made them an offer. So at that point, we already understood our rehab cost. Like we've already made an estimate. So we made them an actual offer and they declined it. And I said, what happened to that? So it was like 130 of those or so ended up selling on MLS. That's a lot of leads that basically I was in their living room. The homeowner was saying, I want to sell. I just don't want the offer you're giving me. Most of those houses were fairly clean, probably outdated. They weren't necessarily motivated financially, even though they may have been a headache for them. They just weren't financially motivated. It's not like they were going through foreclosure. But I literally gave them a cash offer and they said, no, that doesn't work. And then I walked away, even though I was a licensed agent. I could have helped them. It was 130 something deals that if I was a lousy real estate agent and can close only 30% of those as an agent for commission, it was over 200 grand in gross commissions that I just threw away just because I'm not even attempting. Now, this statistic comes from NAR. Most people, if they're going to list their house, they will talk to 2 realtors max, but they'll typically only talk to one and choose that one. Real estate investors are usually earlier in the cycle. So if you're an investor and an agent, you have a little bit of an advantage if you approach it the right way. That's the tricky thing. And that's something that I learned. At first, I was approaching it in the way that, hey, let me buy your house for cash. And then if they said no, then I'm talking about this real estate listing thing. Hey, let me help you list your house. And that was a hard reject because it was a completely different thought. And then I think there was a little psychological mistrust at that point. I introduced mistrust because I told them I could help them with cash offer. They didn't like that. And now I'm introducing something that's completely different that's going to help them get a much higher price. Like, why didn't I say that up front?
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
So I changed the conversation to where, hey, so I'm gonna come out to your house on Saturday at 2:00. And what we'll do is we'll just take a look around, kind of show me around, and we'll just talk about the different options that'll help you get your house sold. Maybe that's an as-is cash offer. Maybe it's a listing. Maybe it's some other option in between. I don't know. We'll just kind of figure it out and see what works best for you. How does that sound? And then, hey, if we do find a good solution, what would you like to happen next? Okay, well, if you'd like to move forward with the contract, okay, sounds good. So I look forward to seeing you Saturday at 2:00, something like that.
Yeah.
And it actually makes it a lot easier because
Right.
now my sales conversation is, let's just talk and have questions, and then you will never convince someone who wants full retail to take an as is cash offer for 70%. You're never going to bridge that gap. You're also never going to convince someone who absolutely does not want to list their house because they need the cash tomorrow to list it.
Yeah.
And they don't care how much more money you can get them. I've had people who were running for public office, law enforcement office, that I knew from church. And I'm telling them, dude, I'm licensed agent. I can get you a lot more. You got a rental, they're cash flowing. I can get you money for it more. And they just wanted cash.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I love that. I mean, because then you're coming in as a problem solver, right? So you're coming in as like, hey, let's figure out what is the problem you have and let's solve it together.
Yeah.
First,
and it's trustworthy. So now, I mean, you do as an agent, you got to clearly like let them know, hey, look, I'm not representing you. We can talk about that if that makes sense. But let's just figure out the best way to get your home sold, and then how maybe I can help you with that situation, or solve that problem. So yeah, you come in as a problem solver. You come in as I don't like to use the word advocate, but almost kind of is an advocate. You're there genuinely to help them. So if you have sincere interest to help them solve their problem, whether that benefits you or not, it's going to help you close more deals. Most of the folks, like if you can actually solve their problem, they'll probably go with you if they like you, they trust you if they trust you. But even if they don't, it's okay saying, well, hey, look, maybe you don't sell right now. You don't have a place to go. I mean, I could buy it, but maybe you just kind of hang on and wait till next year and get it sold.
Chris, we're wrapping up here. I want to ask you one last question. As a man of faith, a believer who's also doing really well in business, I'm just curious, man, why is, because I know you're helping other people achieve this financial freedom, financial margin. Why is that important to you? Why do you feel like that's important for others to go after as well? And why have you chosen real estate to do that?
Yeah, I mean, real estate, I don't know if it was just in the DNA from what my family did. There's definitely a lot of data back that a lot of people who build wealth, real estate's a big part of it, or maybe even a sole part of it. I do genuinely like it. It has its headaches like every other industry, but I do like it. I feel like I have a bit more control over it, at least certain aspects. So as far as why do I teach other folks, I see so many agents out there, talking agents specifically, like they say they want to invest, but they never do. So they just run this hamster wheel of transactional business. And as a real estate agent, there's no retirement plan. Like eXp Realty has one woven into it through their equity plan, which I love. But that's new. That's like very, very new as far as the whole history of real estate. Before eXp, I don't think that existed. Now, some other companies, eXp's kind of changed the game. So some other companies have put in equity incentives. But even with that, you still need to go out and invest. You have to take your earnings and you have to invest it and grow wealth. As a real estate agent, it's almost like a stockbroker, never owning stock. Like, you're the insider, like, this stuff. Like, why not buy the product that you're selling? Like, it's and as an insider, you should have better knowledge and be able to execute that very well. And if you know how to invest yourself, that also can help you serve investors. Actually, as an agent, and I tell investors this all the time, investors that are agents usually are okay going in with the hammer and the screwdriver approach. Agents, you only want to use one tool. And that's the listing tool. That's the hammer. They want to use the hammer only. It's the only thing they know. They're never going to buy it. They may know and someone will buy it, but they're never going to. But as an investor agent, you do both.
I love it, man. I think it's an incredible strategy. Would you recommend, I'm curious, for folks who are breaking in or trying to break in to do more deals, they get their real estate license as well as become, like, I know let's say they're focused on investing in deals. Do you think most people, if they're kind of going after either single families or let's even say small multifamily stuff as well, that having a real estate license would be a good idea?
Yeah, so having a real estate license isn't required for success. At the end of the day, if you want to make this like your career, I don't think there's any scenario that it really hurts you. It can only add options.
Yeah.
So as an investor, you can't list your own home, which maybe you don't want to do. That is a lot of work, but you can still take commissions. Like I have the ability to structure deals that a normal investor can't do. Some investors do it illegally by taking commissions and referral fees and all that stuff. You're not supposed to do that. That's brokerage stuff. There's education, there's extra community, extra tools and resources that you have available as an agent that an investor only may not have. Now, if you've got a spouse, then get licensed and you can remain unlicensed. That might be better because obviously there are certain rules that you have to comply as a real estate agent, both legally and then also ethically within the National Association of Realtors. And a lot of people say, and this is the investors, they'll say, don't get licensed because then you're going to have to do this, this, and this. I'm like, look, at the end of the day, like you can't commit fraud anyway. Like that's illegal for everyone. And then beyond that, you're also not going to talk, like I mentioned before, you're not going to talk a motivated seller into listing their house. Like if they want the cash now, they want the cash now, and they don't want to list it. So having your license isn't really going to hurt you. Here's how I phrase it. Hey, look, Ellis, I'm not a guy who, I'm actually a licensed real estate agent with Texas. I've had a background check. You can actually go to the Texas Real Estate Commission and look at my record. I don't have any marks against me. And ultimately, I didn't just go take some weekend boot camp that's looking to tie up your house in a contract and wholesale it to someone else and take a fee without you knowing about it. I have a higher set of standards, ethical standards that I have to uphold. And then I'm usually having this conversation when I'm going over the contract. Because the contract is, I use the standard contract that realtors use because title companies, they know it's been vetted and all that stuff too. So all of that I call these landmines. I'm setting landmines for the unlicensed wholesaler that took a weekend boot camp. Nothing wrong with those guys, but I mean, this is my competitive advantage. Yeah. I'm throwing the landmines out there, but also it is to educate the seller a little bit because there's a lot of shitty folks out there that they don't mind that you're going under foreclosure on the first Tuesday of next month. And they're giving you a near full price contract with a $10 option fee, $10 earnest money and 45-day option that you just don't really know. And they're going to tie it up knowing maybe they'll get a buyer, maybe they won't, they don't care, and it screws you.
Yeah, no, totally. Dude, I'm pumped to know you, man. I love the experience and knowledge you're bringing to this space and to real estate agents. And so guys, I want to encourage you, realestatewealthcon.com, go check that out. I think that's probably the best starting place. Would you agree, Chris, for folks kind of wanting to learn more about you and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a whole host of topics, whether it's single family, large multifamily, small multifamily, short-term rentals, notes, like there's a whole bunch of topics, legal, tax. Like
I know, man, like I don't know how you're going to get through all this in 3 days. Like you guys must be going from morning to night to get all this in, man. You guys got 2 Zoom rooms or what?
Yeah, the 2 stages simultaneously. So actually I think I have the final schedule. I finished it last night. I haven't published it yet, so I'll get that out publicly soon.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, I'm pumped to see this go well. I hope many folks on our audience will go check this out, guys. It's virtual, September 6th through the 8th. Realestatewealthcon.com. Chris, man, love what you're doing, brother. Grateful to know you. Looking forward to more ways to partner together. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this show, go share this episode, screenshot this. Put it on social media, Facebook, Instagram, tag us, tag me, tag Chris, and we'll reshare that as well. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next week. Cheers.